Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Payroll, my podcast about leadership, project management, Salesforce, delivering great projects with fantastic people. And in my last episode, I spoke to Gemma Blezard and we talked about the impact that cancer was having on her life and directing the decisions that she has had to make. But also one of the things that we did talk about was how very important Salesforce, the Salesforce ecosystem, the people, the ohana, how very important they were to her, how important her work was to her. And so today in this episode, we talk about what she does when she takes a client through the processes that the Architech Club does in order to help them do a health check and to make sure that they're able to make the right decisions when implementing Salesforce. So it's a slightly different slant. It is more on the work side, more on topics that are important to her. And that's why we did this one the second time round. I hope you can see the value in the things she talk about, especially around the V2 mom system that she uses with her clients, and think about where that might be useful to implement in other parts of your life, not only with your clients, but also with yourself. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. Well, hello again, Gemma. Welcome to part 2. I think we had such a great time on the previous session that I thought we have to have another one. And this one in particular, and I'll explain why we're having this one, was at the end of the last session, I said, so what are you going to be doing now? And you said you were going to see a customer, you're going to do a V2 mom with them. And I thought, right? I just recorded a podcast with Kevin White where so he's the Salesforce architect at Salesforce, and he was talking, the episode will come up, but he was talking about the fact that most organizations could do with running that exercise right in the beginning before even embarking on a project like this. And lo and behold, I'm talking to you and you are doing just that. So for today's session, actually, I was thinking it would be great to just understand your process and how you help your customers. So is that the very first thing you do when you get a lead and they say, help, Gemma, we're drowning, I need your help? What do you do?
Yeah, if we get a lead and somebody comes to us wanting some help, that's the first thing we do, right, is understand the pain. First of all, like, come on, therapy's open. Tell us what's on your mind, first of all. Why are you here? Why now? What has brought you here now to talk about? What's brought you to the point where you feel like you need to think more closely about what you're doing with Salesforce? And once we've got an understanding of that, we can actually empathize with it. We can share anecdotal stories of where we've helped other customers to overcome some of those challenges. And sometimes we can tell mini stories about other customers' experiences, and that helps to kind of build that trust and that relationship. So it's really important to do that. But yeah, we do. The next step after that is to actually get the right people in the room or in the virtual room to discuss what are they trying to do with Salesforce right now, because I think that is such a great way to do it, because it's easy to sit and say, right, I'm just going to throw an architect or throw some more resource, or I'm going to go and hire 5 admins and put a program manager in place and get a BA and all the rest of it, right? But that's just throwing resources at a problem and hoping that it will get solved. With the V2 Mom, what you're actually doing is looking at the possibilities. You're looking at where you are now and where you want to be, and once you've got your mind focused in that space, you're in a much better position to come up with ideas and think more widely about how you can make the program more successful.
So for the benefit of my audience, can you just expand a little bit on the V2 Mom and what it means and how do you actually run it?
Sure. So the V2 Mom was first devised by Mark Benioff. It's his strategic alignment framework. It's almost like a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But it's looking at it in a slightly different way. The vision is what you want to achieve. What do I actually want? What's for example, if you're using a V2 Mom to design a conference, for example, you might say, I'm doing London's Calling. My vision is that this is going to be the biggest privately run or volunteer-led community conference in Europe. Our vision is for people to come together and learn outside of the trappings of the marketing spiel and sales environment that you get at a world tour or something like that. And then equally for a project, I mean, the V2 Mom we did this week, the vision is to actually stabilize Salesforce. They've got an MVP, Service Cloud basic minimum viable product stood up, and the other side of that vision is to build confidence in that program. They actually want to operationalize it properly, and they're just not sure how to do it yet. So that vision is really important because that needs to permeate all the way through the project in order to increase the perceived success of that project.
Okay, so what's the second V?
The second V is values. It's all about what's important, what behaviors and what mindsets are really important to you as you go about realizing that vision. So things like transparency, collaboration, honesty, spirit of humanity, things like that. So our values as the Architect Club is trust, obviously, because we have to we have to make sure that our customers trust us and that we trust them. But we also have humanity, ownership, and transparency as our values as well, and that permeates throughout and serves towards creating a set of guiding principles for how the program will function.
So you've touched on a point where I find quite interesting in terms of where you are. So my experience has been working in partners, but when I'm in front of the customer the first time during kickoff, I'm a few steps down the road already. So they will have met with Salesforce, who have given them a demo. They've met with our sales team from my company, who's given them a demo, and ideally should have run a V2 Mom with them at that point. But then they've solved the project, and now it's my turn, right? To take it from there. And it sometimes feels quite late in the process. And then I'm seeing the fact that maybe what you've been sold isn't quite the solution that you need. But you are positioned, or the Architect Club is in a great position to have that conversation now. Do you go through the whole process with them, or just let's start with the first V? Because when it comes to values, for example, how honest is your client with you when you're talking about this? And does it align with what you observe in how they're running their operations and their communication with you?
Yeah, good point. Not always, because if you think about it, the V2 Mom is a strategy. It's the way we want to work. It's the possibilities. The reality, as we know, can be quite different. So that's why we use the V2 Mom as like to start with. Also, we need to remember the V2 Mom is a living thing. So at the beginning you start it, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be the same V2 Mom forever. It's not going to necessarily be the same methods, the same obstacles. You have to review it regularly at different checkpoints and make sure that your vision is valid, but also ensure that you're completing project retros and giving feedback and creating that culture of feedback, so that whether the V2 Mom needs to change, or whether your behavior needs to change.
So it sounds like a consultative process with them. How do they, when you're proposing this, what's the general kind of feedback and perception do you get? Do they go, oh, there's another hokey pokey fad to go through? Oh, wow, it's something that we ought to do and we ought to carry it through. So have you seen the different kinds of clients in terms of how they approach this particular exercise with you?
Yes, actually, and a lot of it is about how you sell it as well. Like, because some people would think it's a gimmick, especially here in Britain where we're all very cynical. But actually, from my experience, it's about taking them through the experience of actually aligning with it, and having the right people on the call who can share perspectives and are willing to share perspectives, because then people see the value of it as an alignment tool, as opposed to this is a rubber stamp, if that makes sense. So we do take time to explain it. We also explain why it worked for Salesforce. We provide background. I mean, Mark has written a post on the blog, on Salesforce blog, about it as well. So we make sure that they're informed about that in advance. And we actually fill out a slide deck on the call with them. So as they're speaking, we're taking notes and we're capturing that information, and then it goes into our proposals. We actually say, this is what you've told us you want to do. And we use that kind of direct language where we say, thank you for your time. This is what you've told us. And then this is your vision. These are your values. This is your methods. This is how you're going to do it. This is your obstacles. And these are some measures that we know are important to you. And we know that some more would come back. So you're right, it is completely it creates that consultative experience and helps to build trust. And that's why we do it.
So taking that on board, so when you're looking at your clients, and we had this conversation, I think it was particularly offline, where you've said the reason why the Architect Club needs to exist is because it's for customers who have already started their journey and they need that expertise or that help in order to grow and scale it to the next level.
That's partly it. It's also that, I mean, the latest proposal that we did for a prospect talked a lot about, now you're live, let's get organized. So that's another kind of call to action. The other clients that we work with are ones that are perhaps feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all of the shiny things that are being presented to them, and want to think about it in a systematic way and make sure they're really ready to embark on a Salesforce program at that point. So really it's a profile of customer. It's where are you in your journey? And with this latest one that we've done, it has been about growth. People need to see and touch. You can't be what you can't see. So people do need time to actually get on board with Salesforce, look at it, understand what they're dealing with, look at Trailhead, and actually they come to a point where there's a realization, like, okay, we've done this bit now I need to really think about how this is going to scale, like you said. So yeah, perfect timing.
So in terms of where you're positioning yourself, so in my world, generally in the world of the consulting industry for Salesforce, you have the clients who see Salesforce and go, wow, that's amazing. I'd like to figure out how to do it myself. I've got Trailhead, I've got stuff, I can learn, and then I can implement. And then you've got the others who go, ooh, I like Salesforce, I don't know very much about it, let me engage a partner to do. In both scenarios, you've got success stories and you've got the not success stories. It sounds like the Architect Club is focusing on how do we make sure that the solution that you get is the right one, regardless of which avenue you go down. Mm-hmm. How do you have that conversation with an organization that says, ooh, I like this. I'm not quite sure what I need to get it off the ground, but I think we don't want a partner. We want to grow it ourselves and we want to create a sense of excellence. How do you have that conversation, and what are the things that they need to think about in order to make sure that that strategy is the right one for them? And is there a wrong one? Is there a situation where, no, actually, you shouldn't think about having a center of excellence. You should actually outsource all of this?
Yeah, good point. So I think, as you say, there are red, amber, and green projects on both sides. And actually, I encourage our customers to go down the centre of excellence route. Consultancy costs a lot of money, and there are some consultancies that are incentivised to draw out engagements for as long as possible to maximise revenue and to maximise that longer term relationship. But actually, if you just get your mind in the right place, Salesforce doesn't have to take 4 years to implement. We know this. So with the Architect Club, what we tend to do is we look at various factors. So we complete orientation projects with customers. It starts with the V2 mom setting the vision and what they want to do, but we actually immerse ourselves in that customer's business for 4 to 6 weeks in an ideal world. And we look at everything. So we look at the data management, integration strategy, solution architecture strategy. We even look at the culture. We look at the methodologies that are employed. We look at any governance and compliance restrictions. We look at their staffing. So we look at the level of knowledge and talent that's there with Salesforce. And at the end of that period, we write a report that shares recommendations with them and actually lists the decisions that they are going to need to make. Sometimes the decision that they need to make is, which route are you going down? Are you going to go down a custom build route first? So we've had a client that used Salesforce as if it was platform as a service. So everything was coded. And there were lots of unnecessary processes on Salesforce that really could have been handled elsewhere and just integrated. So setting that main core strategy and sets of design standards is really important as well. And you can only really do that if you can immerse yourself as a consultant into that business, really feel like you work there, understand as much as you can about the environment, and then that will help you to get a feeling based on your experience and your knowledge of what is going to work for this customer. Some customers are going to struggle to own Salesforce themselves. They don't have the resource, they don't have the time, they've got other priorities that are in play, and therefore it's actually more convenient to outsource to a company that will charge a reasonable price and has all of the appropriate knowledge and skills, and all you do is feed them requirements. The downside to that is how good are your requirements, and are they actually requirements, or are you running to your partner and saying, I need you to build me this, which is a solution. It's not a requirement, it's a solution. So a lot of the challenge on that side is around mindset and saying, right, okay, I'm not a glorified help desk here. You know, you might want this field put in, or you might want this data cleaned up, but what's it for? So, and then on the other side, on the partner side, on the actual enablement side, that's where the Architect Club really strengthens itself, because you've got experienced people who've delivered all these projects year in, year out as delivery, and they've grown in the Salesforce ecosystem without Trailhead, just by doing projects over the last few years. And some of those people have no certifications, by the way, because when have they had time to do certs? They've had no time at all, because they've been out delivering, and they've constantly been delivering with excellence. So they're in demand all the time. You know, there are a few unicorns out there, a few really, really good consultants out there. And there's no real problem with that. But the great thing is that if they're actually, the work they enjoy is advisory work, but you get to a point where you get sick of delivery, you get sick of configuring, and you get sick of having a statement of work land on your desk that you've not been involved in scoping, and the architecture is completely different when you get into the client compared to all the discussions that all the sales and pre-sales people had before you got there, as to your point earlier. So in those scenarios, that's when you end up having to have difficult conversations about scope. This isn't in scope, I can't deliver that, and the client doesn't like it, and everything else. So that partly inspired the Architect Club, because I was like, how can we just make sure that me as an architect, selfishly, can walk into a customer, know I've got commercial coverage, and I can have any conversation that I need to have with that customer. And it doesn't matter if it's in scope or not, it's still relevant. So if I do care, so what if I care about what's happening in your master data management system or your data warehouse? Yes, I care, because even though it's not Salesforce, it impacts Salesforce. And it's that thinking that I'm trying to encourage, and our architects are here because they want to help and enable the 9.2 million, it's now 9.2 million new people that are joining the market by 2026. And we want them to be thinking carefully, strategically about how they're building Salesforce. So that enablement piece is actually, I think, is far more, I think it's, and of course I'm biased, but because I'm running the Architect Club, but it's far more rewarding and easier to enable a client than it is to do it for them. And that's just my view.
I think that it goes, isn't there a fable somewhere about teaching a man to fish?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, isn't it? To help
You've got to
them.
want to fish. That's the thing. Some customers don't want to fish. They want to go to the supermarket and buy the fish.
Okay, that analogy went that direction. So one of the very interesting things I realized when I some time ago was you actually have your V2 Mom on your website available for others to see, which I actually had a gander that last time, not recently. Can you tell me your process about how you've gone through the V2 Mom for the Architect Club? Because it seems to lead quite nicely to that.
I do it every year, and I revise it. We downloaded the Salesforce V2 Mom app into our org as well for personal V2 Moms. The thing is, it's not really been very widely adopted, and I think it's just because we're too small a team at the moment. But for me, it's the first thing I do when I come back to work after Christmas is I do the V2 Mom for the year, and I think about what of our priorities need to be for the year, and that a lot of that is based upon what, obviously, the metrics. So what financials do we want to achieve, what project and success stories do we want to obtain for that year, etc. But the values piece is exceptionally important for me because it helps to drive the quality and experience that we give our customers as well. So I guess I just kind of go through and go, right, is this vision from last year still valid? The vision is that we want to be a home for Salesforce architects. We want to create more, we want to enable the workforce of the future we want to enable the future workforce to see a clear career path. We want to be somewhere that consultants, people who are working as consultants, admins, developers right now, we want them to come and work for us because they see us as a great next step place to go to grow and develop their career as an architect. But equally, we want to get paid for delivering exceptional service to customers in a very pure way. For me, it's we don't have to become millionaires to be successful, or multi-millionaires. For me, my measure of success is that our customers book us again, and they're happy with us, and they're happy with the work that we've done, and they tell Salesforce and others about the impact that we've had on the project. And I feel most proud when I see a client of mine stood on stage at World Tour telling everybody what a great project they've had, and knowing that I've been the little roadie in the background making it actually happen. It can be a thankless job when that happens, but at least I get the satisfaction of sitting there knowing that I worked on it. So
that's, I think, one of the advantages of running your own business, right? Where you can get to say, it's more important for me to do it right than to earn money. And I think sometimes,
to keep the lights on, but
well, no, yes, absolutely. But I mean, a lot of partners, because it's so driven by utilization and revenue and the P&L and things like that, it can get lost sometimes. And trying to do things right is not the
always
top of the
prioritized.
Yeah,
not always prioritized. Yeah, this is all about doing things right, learning the lessons of working for revenue-focused consultancies and seeing projects just stall because the customers had so much thrown at them at once. Here are all the products you need, here are all the licenses you need, and here is the cost of the services, the implementation services, and this is what we're going to do in phase 1, and this is what we're going to do in phase 2, phase 3, here's your roadmap. and you're just kind of like, whoa, that all just hit me at once, and I haven't even logged into Salesforce yet and seen what it can do. And you get this great big dream sold to you at the beginning, and then as the project goes, you realize you're still just putting an IT system in. So there's always going to be stuff that comes up that you're maybe not happy with or want to change, but it's taking the customer on a gradual journey, step by step, helping them to really understand the world that they're getting involved in, because Salesforce is intense. It does hit you smack in the face, and then once you're in it, it's kind of, you do get kind of pulled in culturally, and you know, because the tool itself, the product is great, it sells itself, and there's a reason that we all like working with it, right? It's fun. We like learning, and Trailhead has really tapped into that and realized how fun it is, but it is complex and it can be overwhelming. So with the Architect Club, we are just taking a step by step. Let's walk with you. Hold my hand, we'll take the next step together. Hold my hand, we'll take the next step together. It doesn't have to be all, you know, rushed in and hitting you in the face all at once. You don't have to be live in 3 weeks because it tells a great story. You can be live in 3 weeks because you've actually pulled your socks up and got on with the work, and you've managed to achieve that, and you've involved your users. But it's really you're only as successful as the perception of the success of your project. You could build the most beautiful code and the most beautiful contractor management solution, but if it's hard to use and people hate it, the project's not going to be considered a success. You're going to get that same story that we always get when we've got a new lead that's been live for a few years, and they go, we've got Salesforce, yeah, it's just not, it's been implemented badly. And implemented badly, and that's 2 words that have got so much to unpack underneath.
100%. So thank you for that. Can you talk us through the mom bit of your business?
Yeah.
Is there something you can share?
The mom part is all about how you go about it, what's standing in your way, and how you know you've been successful. So the first part of the mom is methods. What are you actually going to do? So at a strategic level, I look at what projects do I actually want us to complete, because it's got to cascade down the team into their V2 moms. So for our V2 mom, I've said, right, this year we've got the standard kind of grow revenue. You know, we're going to grow revenue by selling more discoveries or more orientation projects. We're going to grow revenue by by tapping into other channels, other sales channels and partnerships and things like that. But then at the same time, there are other methods as well. Like, we want to become part of the vision is about also establishing ourselves as a acting like a proper company. So, we spent 2 years being a startup during the pandemic. We've now implemented internal processes. We've set up Financial Force PSA so that we can forecast and that we can manage our contractors, because architects, ultimately, a lot of them are contractors. So we've got a robust supplier management experience now that we've built, which has been all part of the method of becoming more organised as a business and more compliant as a business. So, and the things that were standing in our way, this is why it kind of all links together, because what was standing in our way was actually time and being stretched, and frankly, limited availability due to this annoying thing called cancer that gets in the way. We don't have a big team of 30 people who are all on the payroll who can just throw jobs at. We have to be really we have to prioritize how we use people's time, because people's time is very valuable. Right down from myself, right way over to Romania, where our copywriter Stefan works for us part-time, and we have to maximize the time that we get with him. So, and that's something that we've all taken seriously at the Architect Club, because we're all a dispersed team, but we try really hard to make good use of each other's time. And the V2 Mom helps to kind of keep us on track, and we go through it at all hands calls and things like that as well. So
So that's the O, that's the obstacle, right?
That's the obstacles. And then the measures is how you know you've done it. So for the revenue targets, that's easy enough. Yeah, I've done X in revenue. How you know you've done it is that you get a good contractor satisfaction rating. You can use Glassdoor. I've been encouraging my team to fill out Glassdoor and be honest. We've got an anonymous feedback bot in Slack that people can use, where they can just type something honest and it can turn it into a discussion. They can do it anonymously. And other measures like our partner standing. So what level are we in the Salesforce partner program? This year we're a Ridge partner. Be nice to be a Crest partner. What do we have to do to be a Crest partner? Well, we've got to go and grow our revenue. We've got to make sure that we have stronger relationships with Salesforce, so that we're recognized for Salesforce ACV. And that's really hard for us actually, because we've had a few occasions where we're not the only partner in there, and the Salesforce partner program doesn't handle multiple partners very well. Doesn't handle white labeling very well either, because you could be doing 40-50% of the work on behalf of another partner, and then they get the story and they get their name on the ACV, which is a key target in the partner program. So there are metrics that there are metrics that are important to Salesforce, and there are metrics that are important to us, and there is some overlap, but we don't have our partner metrics driving our strategy for the business, because we know that there are other elements. Like we also can't link everybody's certifications to our App Exchange profile, for example, but we know that all of our architects have an average of about 12 certs each, but it doesn't say that on our App Exchange profile, because a lot of our partners do work for other partners and they give them the credit for a while. So there's a real missed opportunity for Salesforce to create more equity, to create equality of opportunity for partners in that sense.
Yes, indeed. It looks like a lot of what you do, a lot of what your company does, is the hard work, but not getting a share of, I use the word glory loosely, but not being acknowledged and recognized. But it is so important. I think I've mentioned to you quite a few times already that a company like yours exists to focus solely on the success of the project, because as you've already mentioned, a consulting partner, sometimes they've got, what's the word I'm looking for?
Another agenda.
Yes, I mean it is in their interest to being cynical, to not be as efficient as they could be. I'm not saying that about all partners, but some do, because it's paying the bills. Why should I give them a quicker solution?
Yeah, the money's the most important, whereas for us the money is the second most important.
Yeah,
we need to get paid for what we do, and we need to get paid fairly for what we do, but the success is far more important than sitting in a client just raking millions in year after year.
Yeah. On that note, actually, I think this was quite a nice roundup to our part one, which was to get a deeper look at your company, which is something that has intrigued me for a long time. So I want to thank you for your time again, Gemma, for this part two. And I'm hoping for more part 3, part 4 as we go along. I'm having so much fun just, getting to know you a lot more.
Same here. Thank you.